Well, welcome everybody to Pro Mindset Podcast. Today we are graced with a young lady who has a name by the name of Grace Redman. Grace is a entrepreneur, success coach, author, speaker, mom. She does everything. She wears all these hats. Welcome to Pro Mindset today.
Craig, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. We're today.
We're both red. That's right. The only difference is you have red lipstick. I don't have lipstick on. Okay, so let's get this baby going. So let's just look at the title of your book. The title of your book is Can I Live? Dare to Go From Fcked Up to Fabulous. At what moment in your life were you effed up that you wanted to become fabulous?
So I always say, none of us are really effed up. It's just we're perfectly flawed. When I was 19 years old, I found myself in a situation that I was dating where he was abusive. In that moment, intuitively, I was led to go seek professional help from a therapist. I was with her for 25 years. And several years ago, she had admitted to me that when she met me when I was 19 years old, she didn't think that there was any hope left for me. And she was sorry, and I said, sorry, what are you sorry about? You're not offending me. That just speaks to, the resilience of, the human spirit, where, I came up with the title.
Okay, so share with everybody the story that you would like to share today.
What I would like to share is, regardless of our circumstances, we all have it within us to a different life, what we have. Like, when I was 19 years old, I was being, by the boy I was dating. And now at the age of, I'll be 54 in a couple of weeks. I have a loving relationship with my husband. I run two successful businesses the last 25 years. I've actually been able to move from a place where I achieved everything and I was feeling, exhausted and unfulfilled, to where now I'm continuing to achieve, but from a place of and fun, as opposed to I need to prove myself to show you my worth.
So
we'll come to this place where we feel just fulfilled and really have a life that joy and is fun. And I think we're too serious. We leave the fun out.
what did you find inside you that all of us have inside ourselves that we don't let come out and play, we don't recognize, or we don't give attention to?
Such a great question. Marianne Williamson said it best, and she said, our fear is not that we are not good enough, it's that we are greater than we believe, is our greatness. We all have that within us. We all have this power and greatness within us. However, we've been conditioned to, diminish that, to turn our light off. Also, all of us have a core, belief within us that we're not good enough. So at some point, the world, we're not good enough, we begin to believe it, we internalize it, spend the rest of our lives trying to overcome that. The day we are good enough, and we need to go within to find that goodness instead of searching for it outside of ourselves.
What I find is that so many people are looking for verification, justification, evidence that they aren't good enough. And so, because that little inner voice, I call it the pocket voice, tells you maybe you're not good enough. Maybe this is not your day. Maybe this is not your moment. Maybe this opportunity is for someone else, and you believe it because of the evidence of your circumstances that tell you maybe you're not. So how do you help people, coach people that are very successful, that could be more successful, but for the fact that they listen to their inner voice that tells them they're not?
Question. And so what we think we are, we are. And so if I believe I'm not good enough and this should go to the other person, it's scientifically proven that our brain will collect evidence to prove me right. Where I start is, what is your desired result? Let's focus on that. We already know where you are now. What's your desired result? And let's find examples of that desired result. And, has examples of the desired result, then you begin to different narrative. Like, okay, well, maybe this is possible. It's happened, with this person, possibly could happen to me. And so that's where we begin to, okay, what's your desired result? Some examples of your desired result. From there, we go to the belief system, because our belief system, like my belief system created my success. I got to a point, in my 40s where that belief system that created my success was now no longer working. It was making me exhausted and unfulfilled. Scary. You need to really be courageous to go back and uncover, like, what are the stories I'm telling myself? Well, this story got me successful. It did. And now it's time to reframe it, because it made you successful and exhausted, connected from yourself.
Let's go through that point of exhaustion. There isn't anyone that's our age that hasn't, at some point in time, whether it was when the kids were young or they were climbing the corporate ladder, or they were building their business, it doesn't matter what field someone's in, they got exhausted. They felt like they were on the hamster wheel. For those listening that might be on a hamster wheel, how do you coach them out of that situation?
There's so many pieces to that, how to get out of that situation. I would say the first step, I know we're all very busy, and the first step that I would invite them to take is to find just 10 minutes for themselves in the morning when they get up. Just take that 10 minutes, and there's so many different things you could do. And what I would offer is 10 minutes of silence, minutes of getting to a higher power, minutes of moving your body, 10 minutes of journaling. You choose. The way we start our day sets the tone for the rest of our day. That 10 minutes to yourself, something self, you're going to have it stack on top of that from there.
What is your morning routine at the moment that is working for you?
My morning routine is I do a meditation. I recently introduced to the Silva method, which I love. 15 minutes of meditation, and then I go do my workout. I really, like, by 6:00, I'm in, the studio. I start my morning, and it just opens up space for me. The rest of the day, I feel more productive, and take breaks. We'll take a break in the middle of the day. It's to just where I feel like doing.
For those people that don't meditate, but have thought about it, but don't really understand what it's going to do for them, what does your method of meditation and your practice of meditation do for you, that if you take it out of your day, what is it happens to your day compared to when you put it in?
It's a great question. I get up and I don't meditate. I'm already in a heightened state. I'm kind of already in a fight or flight, because I'm thinking, what do I need to do? Okay, there's so much to do. So I'm just out of the gate, high, high alert. When I take that 10 minutes, after I wake up, I allow myself to take the time to, kind of stay in my parasympathetic, system, or, the response a little bit longer day, and then I go. So I'm not starting out like on a sprint. Carries on for me for the rest of the day. Like, if I start out with a freaking sprint, then my whole day feels balanced to the day. It just feels very chaotic.
But here's what I found is that it's a game of whether you want to be in control or be controlled, right? And so if you jump in the race, because your mind is always racing. If you're an achiever, if you've got things you want to accomplish, if you got a big day in front of you, your mind is racing full speed the minute your feet hit the floor. And when you take that break, you basically give yourself permission to go, hey, I'm in control of my day. My day's not in control of me.
Amen to that.
that client I have to answer to, that problem I got to deal with, that opportunity I get to deal with, they can wait because I want to make sure that I bring a better me to those situations and those opportunities.
I agree 100%. And, I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. And when I first got, trained to, in my business, or I had my coaches, they trained me with a sense of urgency. And so there was always this sense of urgency all of the time. However, that wasn't helping me. It was keeping me in that fight or flight response. And I was not in control of my day. I was being reactive instead of, I was being reactive instead of being in control of my day. The exhaustion.
Okay. I'm going back to something. I get my questions from your answers. I don't have a list of questions. So you talked about desired result. What I think happens when people have a desired result, there's always some natural tension and excitement because it's different than where you're at now. So you and me and everybody that's listening has some dreams. We have some goals. We have some places and things we want to do or be. Otherwise, we wouldn't be living. Right? So it's a natural that where you're at is not where you want to be. And when you get to where you want to be, you change where you want to be again. So you're in that. Fair?
Yeah, fair. Because our mind is a goal-setting machine.
Yes. So what I sense that happens with people that I work with is they give up on their dreams. They quit on their goals. And for lots of different reasons. Worthiness, sometimes fear of being seen, fear of being heard, even though they want to be heard or they want to be seen. When they get that opportunity, they don't want to take it, not being good enough. There's always somebody better. There's always somebody prettier. There's always somebody smarter. There's somebody taller, faster, whatever, industry you're in. And so I really think that going back to meditation, it allows you to focus on your dreams, your mission, your assignment, and not on what the world tells you it is.
To that. And you're right. There's always going to be someone, more talented, attractive, yet there's not going to be anyone who's you. You are unique to you. And exactly that, going into meditation closer to your truest self, that may look like to you.
I see people in one of three places. They're either at the top of the mountain and they want to stay there, or some want to go to a bigger mountain, but they sure don't want to go back down. Then you got the people that are at the bottom. They're in the valley and they're going through failure. They're going through chaos. They're going through a life storm right now. And then you got people that are just, on the way up the mountain. They're climbing the mountain. They're making progress. They haven't arrived yet, but they're not in the valley. So everybody on the planet fits in one of those three categories typically. And I'm speaking very generally. What do you do to help people to up their game, regardless of whether they're in the bottom or in the top or they're in the middle?
I believe it goes back to what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What did you call it? The voice in your head?
Pocket voice. It's with you all the time. It's in your pocket.
Yeah. So what's your pocket voice saying? Like, I want to uncover what are the story that you're telling yourself? Because it's all rooted in our belief system, why we're here. 1, 2, like you got to get really honest with yourself. Like, where's your mess? Like, what's your mess? It's okay. Where's the guilt? Where's the shame? Where's the insecurity? Like, let's lay it out on the table. Let's face it. Because then once you face it doesn't have power over you. Really, and then forgive yourself. We don't, release our resentments, let go ourselves. We can limiting beliefs all day long, but if we don't forgive ourselves, we're gonna stay here. So there's so many different layers to it. One of the most important is be honest with yourself. Put your mess on the table. Doesn't matter what it is. No one is perfect. A message in our mess. So put your mess out on the table. Let's look at it. Put it out. nothing that's going to surprise me.
Human design, we all are very more similar than we are different, because everybody has similar issues. So let's dive into that a little bit more. What about if in your situation you had a boyfriend at 19 that was abusing you? You have to forgive someone. You have to forgive someone else too sometimes.
Absolutely. And that's not always easy. I mean, there's someone in my life that it took me 20 years to them, gentle with myself and compassionate. And I said, it's okay, Grace. As long as you have that intention there for forgiveness, what mattered to me. But I also found that once I forgave myself, it was easier to forgive the person.
But one of the things that I see, especially in sports and in any performance area, is people are trained and conditioned to believe they are what they do. So who they are and what they do become merged into one. And we are going to fail as professionals. We're not going to be successful in everything that we try to accomplish. Well, if you merge those identities with who you are and what you do, you're going to feel like a failure and a loser, and then you're going to take a hit on your self-esteem and on your belief in who you are. So the first thing I have to do with athletes is I have to help them deconstruct their identity by separating who they are from what they do, so that they can understand that, hey, you know what? Maybe you need to work on your skills, improve your capabilities, spend more time or less time doing something. But it doesn't impact who you are.
That, Craig, because
God created you. God created you unique for the purpose that you're on this planet right now, to be the mom and the husband or the wife of your husband, who you are right now. To touch the people you touch through your podcast and through your speaking and through your book and through your company.
And I love that, because I did tie my identity to my business. Last few years, I've had to untie it, because I'm not my business. If you take the business away from me, and that's what I had to grow into. I had to walk into my future self, saying, okay, Grace, if this was all ripped away from you, you feel. Now I've come to the point, if this was all ripped away from me, God created me in his image. I'm a good person. My qualities and values are not going to change. Who I am is not going to change because this business is gone. I had to work on that. I attach my identity to my work.
The more successful you are, the more you're attached to what you do. The more, right? So everywhere you go, every room you step into, people introduce you as the person of what you do, not who you are. As a professional athlete, it's very easy. Hey, this guy's an NFL guy. This guy's an NBA guy. Well, after a period of time, what do they think? That's who I am. That's where my value stands. I don't have any value outside of that. And so I think it's a big hurdle for everybody that's successful.
It's not a fun place to be. When I was, unraveling that, it was not a fun place, because I could feel it in my body. I'm like, okay, Grace, you're not your business, but you're so attached to your achievement. I had to detach and get reconnected to myself as a person, not as, the president or the owner or the coach. My intention is, when I walk away, I want you to feel seen. I want to walk away from you feeling good. I want you to feel good. I want to leave you feeling good from my presence.
Okay. So let's go back to your coaching. What's the impact that you can make on your clients that maybe they don't expect? Because when they work with you, they're wanting to be more successful. They're wanting to have more joy in their life. They're wanting to have more free time. But what is the thing that you help them accomplish that they don't see coming?
Don't see coming is that they're the ones that are creating their own glass ceiling. But once we unravel that, they don't have an aha moment in our first together, because they don't realize oh my gosh, I'm the one that's keeping myself in this mental prison. Easier said than done. And that's where we start, but also the person has to be really committed and ready to do the work. You have to be committed and consistent and ready. If you're committed, consistent, and ready, I promise you, and you've seen the miracles, Craig, you will change your life. You create that shift and step into that future self that you've been dreaming of.
What's the first step from a
You got to tell what's the core theme story, and you need to really, am I not good enough? Am I not safe? Am I not worthy? What's the core theme story? And we drill it down. Okay, I'm not enough if I'm not working 80 hours a week. Okay, so if you don't feel good enough unless you're working 80 hours a week, how are you going to create in your life to have the fun you want? And we start going, kind of rewinding it. You good enough if you work 40 hours a week? And that's going to take time, because someone who's been working 80 hours a week, to go to 40. So then we'll start backwards. Okay, now let's do, that sounds a lot, 75, but some people do work, that much. Start with baby steps. Each week we build on, previous week. It's baby steps. I mean, how do you eat an elephant?
Bite at a time. Okay. So how many kids do you have?
Sons.
How old are they?
1 and 24. One was a football star in high school, so that was super fun to watch.
Does he realize that it meant more to you than to him for him to be successful?
Because I tell him all the time, thank you so much for that experience.
That's awesome. Okay, so you have young 20-something-year-olds. What is your game plan for adulting?
Gracious, I'm still trying to figure that out. The thing I've learned is back and allow them to have their own experience, and it's their journey. Like, I can advise by example. Ultimately, it's their journey, and I just have to trust parenting over the last 20 some years. Trusting God.
Amen.
Force them to do something that they want to do. Definitely not on the traditional trajectory.
What kind of trajectory are they on at the moment?
They have entrepreneurial spirit. Go figure. My son's was like, Mom, I just don't want to finish college, and I want to start my own business. So what he's exploring and doing now. And my other son, still in college. He's he could probably go to D1, coaching baseball.
So he likes sports.
I'm from a very sports related family.
What is one of the biggest lessons your boys learned through sports that shows up in their daily, weekly lives?
Teamwork and brotherhood. Those two can go into any room and be able to establish, and rapport with whoever's in that room. I think that's very important, because ultimately, at the end of the day, about connection and relationships.
Absolutely. What's one of the hardest things your boys had to experience in sports, whether it's unfairness or, favoritism? You pick it. What's one of the things? Sports is full of it.
I think I'm gonna just here. My son was on the team of never for Patrick Walsh and Sarah High School Padres. Was doing great in playoff games. Just exciting, one of the big games. And within the first 5 minutes, like, we had all our family there come watch. First 5 minutes, he was ejected for targeting. It was unfair. And the intention really, not only on him and on us, on the team, on the coach. I feel like it was really challenging for him, yet he handled it very way. If he hadn't had the coaching he had up to that point, not have handled it the way that he did. Tough one. Very tough one. Because they ended up going to the championship and he wasn't able to play.
One of the toughest things I don't think fans sometimes remember that, doesn't matter if it's college, NFL, high school, whatever, there are parents in the stands. And they're real people, and their kids are making real mistakes. fumbling the ball, striking out, depending on the sport. And as long as they're giving their best, that's all they can do. But they're not, typically, I don't know what sport is they like ties, but there's always a winner and a loser. Somebody's going to be the scapegoat. Somebody's going to be the reason why the other team won. And that's one of the greatest things about sports is the highs are very high and the lows are very low.
Like life, and that's why I love sports. Sometimes like I'm the athlete of my life. Sometimes there are going to be those high highs and the low lows. Or are you going to negate it in those low lows? In a way, you move forward, those low lows, they're not as low as they used to be.
Okay. Let's go back to you as a woman entrepreneur running your own business and speaking. Let's pretend that I'm an event planner and I call you up and I want you to come speak to my organization. What is the core message of what's the theme of your keynote?
Some of my keynote as, high achievers, we're constantly striving to get to the next level. And what we don't realize is that we create our own glass ceiling. And so my keynote would be on how to break through your self-imposed glass ceiling.
How do we do it?
Back and recognizing, what is a story that I am telling myself? And you really have to just reinvent yourself. The courage to create a new you, because how you created how I created my success today, 25 years ago, is not the way I'm going to create my success from today to 25 years from here. It's a scary concept. Wait a second. Like all the way I was thinking got me here. And now you're asking me to relearn it, something different. Yeah.
So what's the common denominator for someone, whether it's their home life, their relationship, their professional career, their professional relationships, everywhere they go, what's the common denominator?
Sure.
Well, the common denominator, it was almost a trick question, Grace. It's them. They show up everywhere. So what I tell my people is, if we can reinvent and rewrite your story, we change every situation, every relationship you walk into. By just changing you.
And what I had to learn is I used to have the victim mentality, why me? Because I was conditioned that way. I didn't realize that happening for me, not to me. So the moment that I started to take accountability in my life, and I really started to make, the big shifts. And that's about okay, owning your mess on the table. Where are your gaps?
Tap into what do you mean by gaps?
Like my gap, was one recently. My gap was I wasn't owning my talent. I was afraid. Well, if I own it, then I'm going to seem arrogant. If I own it, I'm going to seem like I'm stuck up. Well, that was the gap. I'm not going to move forward if I don't believe in myself and if I don't own my gifts. I had to close the gap. In, deep diving in what's the story I'm telling myself. Well, the story I was telling myself, if I own my talent, then, this group of people might think I'm arrogant, then they won't want to be my friend anymore. This is an old story. The other thing about the stories, they come back. Some of them never go away. And every time you want to level up, they come back again. So, hey man, it's like Donkey Kong. Go to that next level, then I need to look at my mess again, gap, myself a new story. How do I want my future self to be? I don't want to be scared on the sidelines. I want to be in the game. Close that gap.
I don't want to oversimplify that, but the gap is really the difference between where you're at and where you want to be.
That's how simple it is.
Your old story is keeping you right where you're at. And your new story can take you to where you want to go. But the gap is you got to put in the work to rewrite it, to reinvent it.
Embody it. Sometimes I'd feel the stress in my body. And, I just felt into it. And I said, it's not true. And if someone doesn't like me, that's not my problem. I'm not going to give my power away. If I give my power away, then I don't get to create, the impact and help the people that I'm meant to help, stepping into my God-given potential. And that's something I don't want to do that. Like, I want to step into my greatest potential.
You talk about adversity. Something special happens in adversity. How would you describe most people want to avoid it. They want to hide from it. They want to dodge it. They don't want to deal with it. None of us do really want to deal with our messes. But what is the benefit of stepping into your adversity and facing it?
When we step into our adversity and face it, one, we learn wisdom, experience, and we build our resilience muscles. We, build our courage, our confidence. So when I look back and I say, wow, I made it through that adversity, that gives me confidence to know that I can make it through whatever comes my way. For me, I've learned, as I look back and connect the dots, I've overcome so much that now, we had a major adversity hit my family a few months ago. We handled it was very different than we would have handled it, a few years ago, because we built our resilience muscles. I'm like, this is happening for us, not ideal. However, what's the next step that we can take? To help me to wallow in pity, took the next step. And I think when we build our resilience, able to be more strategic decisions we make.
Well, what I get out of that, just listening to you, I'm going to regurgitate back. Adversity is the igniter that puts you in a position where you have to close the gap or live in the mess you're in.
And I do not living in a mess. Like, I love through the adversity. Also, to relationships, when there's adversity in relationships, I've learned to look at myself. Okay, Grace, there's still a gap there. Because if you're, having this experience, you need to heal. What do you need to learn? Like, where do you need to step up? I'm the other person, myself.
One of the things you also talk about is detaching from, maybe your old story, detaching from your circumstances. How does that show up in your work?
Sometimes we get so attached to an outcome, that puts us in a place of resistance. And what I've learned is just letting go and surrendering the how. In my experience, I don't know, if you could share too, in my experience, when I surrender, the outcome is even better than I imagined. And the how is near how I imagined it. Me, just surrendering, detaching from the outcome, open to the how and how it's going to unfold. Because I can't control everything. That was another one. I was, wanted to control, in my earlier years, like control everything. Well, that just puts you in a state of stress and fight or flight.
So I think the line of demarcation, going back to when we were talking about meditation, allows you to kind of be a little bit more in control. Is when you're playing an inside game, you want to control yourself. When you're playing the outside game, you want to surrender. You want to let go. You want to not try to hold on tightly to the results, the outcome, your expectations or other people's expectations, because it makes you miserable. And it does limit the limits. Whereas if you let go, like you suggested, the results could be better than you even were hoping for.
And talking about, the work and being prepared, each day I get up, I'm doing the work and preparing myself for whatever is ahead. Being emotionally fit, mentally fit, spiritually fit, physically fit. When those plays come, the adversity comes, we're ready for it. Grounded enough to deal with those adversities.
Well, in sports, you practice to prepare for the adversity because it's going to come.
And that's why I love the athlete mentality. And, when I work with my clients, I said, you are the athlete of your life. You are preparing for the game. That may be. You're preparing to get off the bench. Really what we're doing is stepping into our future self. Because if you want to be, if someone wants to be physically fit, there's certain things you have to do today who you want to be in 4 months. You can't just expect to, in 4 months, look in the mirror and be fit. There are certain things that you need to do to get there. I think people are missing. Take action towards your goals.
Well, I think people, society, business has made life so convenient, and we desire convenience. We desire speed. McDonald's put in the first drive-through so you could get your food fast. Microwaves heat up food quickly. We do not have patience, and we're all looking for the cheat code, the shortcut, the secret sauce, whatever it may be, and there is none.
You didn't create your success overnight, create my success overnight. And I think that's what I see with my boys, or they think it's overnight. It's not. You need to put in the work every day. It doesn't mean you have to hustle and grind. Like, I'm making an effort to move away from that. To like the hustle and grind, to rest as well. See these overnight sensations. I don't. An overnight sensation. It takes time. Go ask anyone successful. They didn't get here overnight. You don't see the backstories to the person was doing day in, day out to get to where they are.
How do you help your kids, and especially younger people, realize that you coach them on doing the right things, but other people that do the wrong things still have success? How do you reconcile that?
And so that's where the belief, like when you have a conviction and you believe, like, I'm going to be a millionaire no matter what, you are going to be a millionaire no matter what. However, what do your relationships look like? Feel within yourself. So success means something different to each person. But when I speak of success, it's not just financial success, mentally, spiritually, and physically. That's success, like the whole, all 5 pillars. Money comes and goes. You can create millions and still be miserable, still not have health, have good relationships.
Do you find that people over time start seeing the value of having a balance of all of those, but perhaps right out of college, they're micro-focused, hyper-focused on perhaps financial wealth?
I mean, especially in the world that we live in, it's very on wealth. Nothing wrong with that. Money is great. Money gives you independence and freedom. However, it doesn't have to be this or that. It can be, yes, I'm focused on my career and I'm focused on my well-being and my mental health. It can be both. And I think that's really important. We need to teach that to be this or that. It needs to be both. It gets to be this and that. Be even more successful financially when you tap into the other pillars of your life. Cap on what you can create.
When you look at your most successful friends, clients, what is the one thing that you see as a common thread with all those people?
They're just good people. They have faith, good heart. They're heart-centered. That's it. They're heart-centered and they have faith and they have just great energy. I know that sounds so simple, but truth. Be around them. Emanate this amazing energy, like of kindness and love. Sounds silly, but that's the truth for me.
What are the 3 C's? The 3 C's of success that you talk about?
Conviction in yourself, believing in yourself, and consistency. And there's so many more. Having the conviction, believing in yourself that you can, and then being committed and consistent with the action that you take. Because it does. I know we sit back and say we can create whatever we want. Absolutely. We need to take, action towards whatever it is whatever our desired, result is.
We got on before. You shared that there was something going on. Would you mind sharing what's going on?
Whereas, in what sense?
I don't know, whatever you were alluding to. I didn't ask because I was going to ask you during the show. You said something was up today.
Up today. So it was exciting to come on with you because, again, going back to like just athlete, I definitely live my life like an athlete to make sure that, I kind of shared it earlier, to make sure that I'm prepared for my big game, for when I get called off the bench. I thought it was so interesting. Excited to join you because, being, sports, and connected to the NFL. I'm like, that's really cool considering, how I have a metaphor for myself in life. Your life like an athlete to be prepared to get on the field.
Well, if you think about, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you think about, Grace, the dedication, the discipline, the training in all aspects of their life, for football players, they've got to know the playbook. So they have to study. They have to get their sleep. They have to do recovery so that they can recover from a car wreck from last Sunday and be ready for the next game next Sunday. They've got to have connection with their teammates. They've got to have balance between the work and family life because they can't just say, hey, baby, I'll see you in, 5 months when the season's over. You've got to stay integrated in with your kids and your significant other. So it's like the athlete always goes the extra mile. They want to be the best. They have to give a little bit more. And I think in, mainstream business, if you do have an athletic mentality, you're going to be successful.
And about it's about the team. Years ago when I started business, they told me, keep a focus on your competition. Well, that exhausted me. I learned to run my own race, focus on the relationships. No longer about the bottom line. It's about how can I serve and give back? And then that will automatically hit the bottom line. Really, it's not about me, it's about we. It's about the team.
I think one of the things that happens in sports is athletes that pay too much attention to the scoreboard.
I can imagine.
They don't play their best because they get tricked into thinking I can coast because we're winning, or we're losing and they're quitting in their minds because they're not going to win. Whereas if you don't pay attention to the scoreboard, you can show up every play being your best. And so in mainstream business, too many people pay attention to the scoreboard.
And that's exactly what I just feel like when I was paying attention to the scoreboard, I was so stressed. I fell into, you fall in from the mind down into the body, completely different experience. Grateful for that realization and that intuition when I didn't even know what intuition was. Got me here. I mean, I did it through 4 economic crises. We're actually in a cycle right now. 4 economic crisis, this cycle, and the pandemic. Because of the relationships I cultivated and how I served, that's why I'm still here.
Okay, what nugget would you like to share with our audience that I haven't asked you about?
Whatever your desired goal is, it's possible. If you've imagined it, it's possible. Believe in yourself. I promise you, your circumstances to hold you back. For whatever that dream is in your heart, because it wouldn't have been put in your heart if it wasn't possible.
Excuse me. So your nugget is, if you've got the dream, go for it. Right? And if it doesn't happen, don't have the reason for your failure to succeed in the dream that you have be because you got in your own way.
And there's no failure. It's all feedback.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for being on Pro Mindset today.
So much, Craig. This was amazing.
Grace, where can people find you?
Find me at www.graceredman.com, and also find me, just go Grace Redman, and find me on all the social media platforms.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Hang in here for a second.